Cubs and Cardinals fans, it is September 20th. And this week in baseball, Contreras has been a double. Baez has home run adrenaline rate. Joe Maddon's is playing weird. Wainwright returns with a strong outing on Sunday. The Memphis Redbirds capture the championship. And we've got 9 games left. We're here to talk about that and much more. The Team of Rivals podcast starts now.
Smith corks one into right down the line. It may go. Go crazy, folks. Go crazy. There's a drive. Way back. It might be. It could be. Playing a high drive to the left. Back goes the Craig. He's at the track. He has it. And the world champion from 2011. A little bounces slowly toward Bryant. He will glove it to Rizzo. It's in time, and the Chicago Cubs win the World Series.
This is the Team of Rivals podcast. No insiders, no anonymous sources, just passionate analysis from the bleacher seats. Here are your hosts, Ron, Pete, and Elliott.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to the show. We have discovered early on here, I said full crew on the episode title. I didn't lie because I was only going off the best information I had at the time. And as we hit the record button tonight, we are down. We have a Piper down. We have no idea where the hell he's at. He's pulling a Pete on us that he did it weeks ago. So I have a feeling Elliott is going to come barreling in here. With no radio etiquette whatsoever. He'll turn his mic on, he'll log in, he'll open a damn beer can right in front of the microphone, or belch or do something else. We know him, right? We know our guy.
Yeah, but at least Pete told you he was going to be late.
Pete did give fair warning he was going to be late. Yes, that's true. And Pete also did call the phone in the middle of the intro to cut the music off. But that's
Pete
cool.
Didn't know you were in the middle of the intro.
Pete should have known.
Pete likes it when
Pete was just doing his best.
Yeah,
Elliott's not here to do his
talk
best.
about Pete in the third person.
All right, so tonight, later on in the show, randomly as we're talking, I'm going to. I don't have a sound to play, but later on in the show, I'm a designated time, and so for 2 straight minutes, we have to talk about ourselves in third person. Can we do it?
No.
Pete can.
All right, Ron
I'm
can.
giving up now.
Ron's going to do it.
You mean you don't have a Ricky Henderson clip to introduce this?
Oh, I need one so bad. That is so good. Yes, I'm going to find it. Pete, actually, your assignment over this next week is to find a really good
next week, next hour.
Ricky,
hold my beer.
Hold my beer. Okay, well, fine. I'll hold your beer. You find us an outstanding clip. Brecklyn's with us. Pete's with us. If you figured it out by now, Elliott's missing. We don't know what happened to him. We've lost him. Is he moving to Chicago? Is that just why he just forgot? It's Thursday night. I mean, we're worried about him, right?
We are worried about him. I ran out during the intro and I started putting up posters around my block.
Missing see
one podcast co-host. If
right.
seen, please direct him to Google Hangouts.
Maybe we'll see what that produces. But as we sit here tonight on an off day, and it's a good day to do a show like this because both, especially the Cubs, it could definitely use a day off. But it's the perfect time for us to get together. Glad this landed on a Thursday, so we got 9 games left. The Cubs only have really to worry about the Brewers, and I don't think the worry should be that large. And the Cardinals right now are holding on to the wild card game, a game and a half up on the Rockies. So I want to get into what could possibly happen over this last 9 games. We can do fantasy hour, which I think I already know what Pete's is going to be. And then
you have no idea what my fantasy is.
I'm not sure if I want to know what your fantasies are.
You walked right into that one, Ron.
Yeah, well, I mean, okay, we'll talk. We'll discuss it later on in a PG way. Okay.
Ready.
Okay, let's get into the first thing tonight. And it's a shame Elliott's not on here, but you know what? I'm not changing my agenda just because that young man didn't have his alarm set on his Apple Watch or whatever the hell he wears. Pete, I got to ask you about this. Your thoughts as a Cub fan? I think this is kind of funny, but I can totally understand the scenario. Tell me about Wilson Contreras, and his moonshot double. What happened there?
Oh my God! You really just wanted to piss me off. That's how we're starting the show.
Yep,
That's how we're going to start the show. Thanks.
Talk about that one.
Thanks a lot, buddy. Actually, the boy and I were at that game. It was our final game of the season together. His first game in the bleachers. It was unbelievably hot in the bleachers, and there was obviously no shade. There were no clouds in the sky, so it was an endurance test to make it through the game. And God, I forget which inning it was, but wind was blowing in off the lake, and Wilson clubbed a shot. Give him his due there. He destroyed a baseball, and the wind knocked it down, and it hit off the wall. But Wilson pimped that double for a good 6 seconds before he even started to run. I mean, saying he walked out of the batter's box is an insult to the disabled. I have seen people of Walmart move more quickly than Wilson Contreras did on that strut. And then when he saw, I mean, literally, he didn't start running until he saw the ball hit the wall. He thought it was that gone. And by some miracle, he managed to bust his ass and slide into second base with a double. Now, had he been hustling out of the box, that's all he's getting anyway. He's not getting a triple. But still, to see that complete lack of respect for the game just further reinforces my complete and utter disdain for bat flips and pimping home runs. It was shameful, and it really ticked me off.
Well, I of course I saw it after the fact, but to me, it's like, yeah, this was he's a young enough player. He should learn from something like that. I mean, we see it happen from time to time. We see guys dog it to first base when the infielder commits an error. It's a pop up, and the infielder drops it, and they end up getting thrown out. So maybe this was, I guess, your hope is this is a one-time thing. But to your comment about bat flips, Pete, you and I have shared a view on that for a couple of years now, but we don't know Brecklyn's view on that.
No, we don't.
I personally, I'm not the biggest fan. I mean, just like what just happened, if you see something and it is clearly gone, then you can celebrate. But until you are 100% sure that that thing isn't going to come back to bite you, then you need to just like gun it. I don't know.
Well, and I think when you play in a place like Wrigley Field or San Francisco, where you've got wild ass winds, you probably can never take those things for granted. And you know, especially when you have a lake facing out. When they renovated Wrigley Field, they really should have just turned it around. I think, but whatever.
Yeah, except that batters would be looking into the sun in the late afternoon.
Well, okay, you didn't have to turn it like 180 degrees, but I mean, you know. Anyway, funny to watch from an outsider perspective. But Pete, I knew you were going to be pissed off as soon as I saw that happen, or as soon as I heard him talking about it on MLB Network Radio. And they weren't as violently pissed as you, but yeah, I think the sentiment there was young player, should learn from it. You know, end of story. Mm-hmm. So now we got to talk about Joe Maddon's reaction, which I want to get from you. I really didn't think these questions were going to piss you off this much.
So
highlighted
it. Joe has done some things so far this year that have baffled and annoyed me. But this one really, really got under my skin. So after the game Sunday, Joe is asked about Wilson and says, I didn't like it. None of the guys in the dugout liked it. It will be dealt with. And then on Monday, so this was a Sunday game.
Yeah.
On Monday, when the media asked him about it, Joe said, "We've handled it. It's over. I don't understand why everybody's blowing it out of proportion."
Really?
We're going to go explicit right now. You monumental fucking hypocrite. You are the one who blew it out of proportion.
Yeah,
if
you
anybody
perpetuated
did.
it, man.
It wasn't blown out of proportion. This was an absolutely appropriate response. But for you to act like it's the media and fans who are going too far in this, you poured gasoline on the fire, Joe. You shouldn't be surprised that it exploded, you moron. I mean, seriously, that's your reaction? Is everybody's blowing it out of proportion? You're the one who drew attention to it and said, I didn't like it. Nobody in the dugout liked it, and it's going to be dealt with. Therefore, you're saying it was a serious transgression. And so when everybody else reacts like it's a serious transgression, now you're going to back off because the guys are going after your players. You screwed up, Joe. Admit it. You screwed up. That's all. Just say it. Yeah. You screwed up. I shouldn't have called out my guy in public.
Yeah. But
that's what he's pissed at. He called out his guy in public and he's feeling the heat for it.
Yeah.
And so now he's trying to shift the blame off onto somebody else.
That's what we do here on the show every week.
That's because Elliott's not here and it's his goddamn fault.
And he's not here to defend himself either. All right. So
Elliott, feel free to come onto the podcast and defend yourself.
Well, we're going to bash him until he does. So this could be a fun hour.
Hey, Adam, if you want to call in and
I invited him on.
I think there might be an opening for
I invited him to the last show because I didn't think I was going to have Chris. And actually, it's what Brecklyn may have joined us on that show too. But I did send him a text. Sounds like he's busy tonight. You know, Adam, if he's available and able to do it, we know he's always willing to jump on. But Adam, if you are available.
So we're taking odds right now. Right. Who calls in first? Braden, Adam, or Elliott?
Oh, man.
Or we could just kind of tune into Prospects After Dark, too. We could bring Cal Reese into this.
We could. We've had
I'm wearing my Prospects After Dark shirt.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. All right. Well, it's on right now, right? I'll have to check in on Twitter, see if we can pull some sound in. Last time he saw the hello, so no guarantees. My money, it's Braden's going to be the first one to call in, followed by Adam, and then Elliott may randomly show up.
Do you think Braden calls in when he hears his name, or does he just sense a disturbance in the force?
I think I think he senses something has been talked about that has pissed off a 13-year-old. However that happens. I don't quite remember, but probably everything. But if we're talking, we haven't gone on Cardinal topics yet, so maybe it's coming. But I did mention his name. You're right, Pete. So that is one trigger. Moving on a little bit to an actual home run, which I saw probably a lot more media highlights on this one than what I cared to see, because I'm going to give my opinion on this one first, Pete. There's a difference in bat flipping and admiring your shot. Admiring it, watching it as though nobody's ever been up in that situation and ever crushed a ball. It's one thing to admire yourself, and that's what I hate about the pimping home runs and showing up a pitcher and not respecting, that you've got athletes out there competing. And it's probably in your best interest to not piss them all off. Some guys are just too stupid to figure it out. But when I saw what Javier Baez did, that to me is slightly different. That to me is you're in the game, you're feeling it, and I think that's just an emotional reaction. I didn't see Javier Baez watching the shot. I mean, he kind of knew it was gone when he hit it. And to me, that one felt different. Even as a Cardinal fan, I look at that and go, well, okay, he's caught in the moment. We've seen pitchers, get animated off the mound. Pedro Strop does it, in the middle of in the middle of May in a meaningless game. Pedro Strop will do it too. He'll act like he won the World Series on a strikeout pitch. Those kinds of things don't really bother me because that's just the emotions of a game. And some players have a little bit more of it. They're a little bit more hot-blooded. So I can deal with that a lot more. And maybe it didn't happen to my team at the time, so that's why I'm not feeling it right now. But Pete, I know you want to stay consistent with this stuff. So I have a feeling I know where you're going with this, but I don't think somehow I sense you're not quite as angry in this case.
I'm not I'm not as angry, but I still don't like it. I just don't. On principle, I don't like bat flips. I don't. It goes against the whole notion of sportsmanship. Just like I don't like, great. You dunked on somebody in a basketball game, and so you're going to stare them down the 82 feet as you go the other direction.
Yeah.
Big deal. It's the whole notion of, look, I grew up watching Walter Payton play football, and almost every time he scored, he just handed the ball to the ref.
Like Barry Sanders, same way.
Yeah, Barry Sanders, same thing. That's how I was raised. I prefer that kind of sportsmanship.
Well, and I have too. And there's been some of our own players that I really liked how they did it. Like I actually love the way Scott Rowland rounded the bases because he sprinted around the damn bases. He didn't waste any time out there whenever he went deep. And that's always something I admired. That's something I would prefer to see. But in that heat of the moment, I don't mind seeing those reactions. Michael Jordan, that one shot he had in the playoffs where he's pumping his arm out there because he hit it. that stuff to me is like, that's just, I'm excited, hey, we won, or, something like that. It feels a little bit different to me, but then there's the choreographed shit that happens where I don't really care for that. But the one touchdown dance that I wish somebody would bring back is the Icky Shuffle. Icky Woods, remember him for the Bengals? That was beautiful. That was beautiful.
Everybody could do it.
Anybody could do it.
I need you to show me what that is right now. Like, please.
I'd probably knock all this shit down behind me, and you'd see a couple garage doors. So I'm gonna stop doing that right now, or I'm not gonna do it. So Brecklyn, I don't know if you saw the Javier Baez home run or not, but did you have a feeling on that one, or have you not seen that one?
I didn't get a chance to watch that one, but I'll kind of expand on the point that I was making earlier. Okay. So when it comes to baseball in general, I feel like it's a really low faith game in that there's sometimes whenever you hit that ball, like, that it's gone. And there's other times when things just feel right and things are clicking. And that's something that happens just as an athlete. Like, you have that feeling that, it's working out. But baseball is weird. And not only is it weird, we normally talk about it in a general sense, but just crazy things can happen on that field. So I still stand by what I say, like, once you hit that ball, you need to book it and keep going. Like, you shouldn't take any chances, because just like how the wind blew, that first ball back into the field, like, anything can happen. Now, I do agree with like what you were saying, that, you get caught up in this game, and I like seeing emotion from the players. I just don't like seeing, I don't know how to really phrase this, over the top things from that. I think what you were saying, Pete, with being able to keep the sportsmanship in it is really important, and kind of being respectful of, the teams and of the game itself. But when you pour your heart and soul, and like, this is your life, is playing these games, when you do something that feels good like that, then, take a moment to, admire that, but don't let it get in the way of your ability to play the game. So I think anything that's really over the top is just that, over the top.
Yeah, I guess I feel the same way. Pete's slightly different, but I get where Pete's coming from too. I guess it's just sometimes it comes down to a personal preference, and I think there's a line there that the line's got to be different for every player. Some guys are going to be offended easily by that stuff. Others have a higher tolerance for it. But to me, raw emotion's fine. Pimping ain't fine. Raw emotion's fine. Pimping ain't fine. Is that the show title, Pete? Did I finally score one? I haven't scored a show title for a long time.
Are you sure?
Pimping ain't fine?
Pimping ain't fine. I like it.
Okay. I do like that.
Are you good with that?
We're definitely going to, at least that wasn't the title for the first show I was on. That might have had a different feel to it. But.
I think it's the leader in the clubhouse right now. Who knows what Elliott's going to spout when he comes on the show, though. So.
He could bowl me over with something just beautiful. All right. Adam Wainwright.
Wow.
Sunday start. I mean, Brecklyn, I just want to start with you, because I've talked about this 2 shows since, and I just want to get your feelings on our old Uncle Charlie there on Sunday.
I was actually going to ask you about it, but go ahead and pass it, because my heart was broken because I didn't get to see the game.
Oh, no. Okay.
Yeah. I had to work, and normally my routine for things after I go to work, I come home, and while I'm making myself dinner, I will check Cardinals Twitter, and then I'll check our Facebook pages. And Cardinals Twitter, the only thing I was seeing was, oh my gosh, just, reveling in Adam Wainwright. So apparently it was really good, but I sadly missed it. So I don't have too much to say, just because, all I've heard is what other people have told me.
Pete, I want to ask you as a Cub fan. And by the way, so Kyle's show is up. If I see him getting animated, I'm going to cut his sound in, okay?
Or naked.
Yeah, and I'm going to send him a little message, say some crazy shit. We're putting you on live. We'll see if he even sees it. He has so many comments to go across. By the time he gets done answering one, like 25 have blown by. So I'll have to resend if he doesn't get it. But Pete, just your perspective on Adam Wainwright as a longtime competitor, rival. I'm sure there are years, 3 or 4 of them there in a row, where you just like rather not face the guy. But just how do you feel? Because you follow. We've been talking a lot over the last 2 years, and we know he struggled. How do you take this in?
Well, it's funny because the Bears played on Monday night, and because I had been at the Cubs game that afternoon, and then had dropped the boy off at his mom's. I actually had no other competing thing. So I sat down, I turned on the Fox Sports app, and I watched.
Really? Okay.
And man, it was impressive. As handily as the Dodgers had spanked the Cardinals in the previous 3 games, and as much as I had enjoyed that inordinately.
Inordinately. I love that.
Yeah,
okay.
Still, it was impressive to see him do that. And as I was watching it, I was kind of going through my mind the Cardinals rotation, and I was thinking, if I'm Mike Schilt, I'm starting Adam Wainwright in game 1. If he can continue to look like this with the start, he's got more experience than anybody else in the rotation has. He's going to be able to handle that situation. In the wild card game, and there would be an advantage to that too. In the wild card game, I might give him the ball, because then it saves the rest of your, the rest of your young fireballers for the NLDS if they somehow manage to pull off the upset. I mean, that was vintage Wainwright, especially that curveball, man. That curveball was working.
Yeah, and that was the key to his night there. So he went 6 innings, only gave up 2 hits, got his ERA under 4. Now we know there's not a lot of innings piled up against that, so take it however you will. But boy, what a shot in the arm that would be for their staff, and their staff's been pretty solid all year. It hasn't been starting pitching that has been their issue. Of course, we all know it's been bullpen and sometimes an inconsistent offense. But if they could come back and he could use whatever he has left in that tank and just expend it all on this late season push and into the playoffs. Wow, what a lift! Not only just having him as a leader in the clubhouse, but you get him out on the field and he's throwing. It's not unreasonable to expect he's going to throw like that all the time. But if he can regain 80% of his form, I'll take 80% of Adam Wainwright's form over 100% of a lot of other guys. So if he can regain anything, now's the time to do it. And I think they could benefit largely from it. But with that said, he's making another start on Saturday, and so it's going to take more than 1 or 2 outings before I think everybody knows. But I think the one thing that's been answered throughout the remainder of the year, Adam Wainwright's not returning as a bullpen option right now. Right now, he's the only person that's going to take him out of a rotation. So great to see. Never thought I'd be saying that in August.
Yeah, it was impressive, man.
All right, so let's
loads of fun.
Oh man, well, I'm all about him pitching out of the bullpen if that's an option. I don't think it is though, and I do think that the Cardinals are going to re-sign him. Look, if these last
kind of like voyeurism, isn't it? Kind of creepy.
Yeah. Look, the Cardinals are going to re-sign Adam Wainwright. It's just going to happen. We all need to come to terms with it. And I ideally would like him to stay away from the starting rotation, although he was great.
Talking about Wainwright,
he was so good the other night. It was awesome.
Yeah, that was pretty good timing.
He stayed the fuck away from his fastball.
There we go.
Beautiful. Just throw that curve. What do we talk about on every pad leading up to that start? Throw the curve. Just throw the curve 60% of the time.
There we
go. You'll be great. And he didn't throw it 60% of the time, but he threw it more than he threw any of his other pitches, and he was good. And he kept the Dodgers off balance. And
stay in the show
but yeah, I'm all about it. He wants to come back and be part of the bullpen and sign him.
This is probably like illegal. Like we probably get like in trouble for. Let's just see if he's. Let's see.
It would only the only way that it would be better is if you could somehow pull up his video.
I think we scrolled. I think we scrolled up to. I think he was talking too long and he missed it. We'll try again. We'll try again later on. We're not gonna.
It's hard to get your comment in there.
We're not gonna linger on somebody else's show all night because that's creepy.
Okay. He did give us a shout out though early on in his show. He did give us a shout out though.
Did he?
Like earlier on in his show. Yeah.
Okay.
Was it related to Gene slapping at our show account?
No.
Gene likes Brecklyn.
We'll try again. We'll try again later.
Hey Ron,
yeah.
I just wanted to give you something. Okay, can we have 10 seconds?
Uh-oh.
I have something for you.
Okay.
Luke Brock was a symbol of great base stealing, but today I'm the greatest of all time. Thank you.
That wasn't a third person because he used I, but that is a vintage. One of my favorite.
That's so vintage.
It's one of my favorite Ricky Henderson lines ever. I remember as a young man at the time hearing that and going, "What the hell, man? The guy's out there in Oakland watching you, and you broke the record, and that's how you're going to respond to it." But you know what? Knowing Ricky like we have over the years, and missing a guy like him, honestly, we've talked about it on here before, Pete. Where are more of those crazy crazy ass, super awesome athletes in this game that will do shit like that. I miss it.
Or they just flip their bats now.
Yeah, but
because they can't blow their brand by flipping a bat.
I mean, we're like the marvelous Marvin Haglers of baseball. That's what I want. I want the Larry Holmes of baseball. I want these complete dipshits, but they're really good, but they say the dumbest things in front of camera that you can imagine. That's what I miss about this sport. Anyway, find us a third person statement if you can, and we will start we only speak in third person language in Brecklyn. You're going to try your best.
Oh gosh, I don't like it.
We don't
at
have to do it
all.
right now. It's going to come in a random, uncomfortable period of time, and you're not going to want to do it. But that's how we roll on here. The Memphis Redbirds celebrate their first title. What's impressive to me about this, Brecklyn? You're pumping your arms, so I definitely want to hear your take on this one. You know what's impressive about this is that they've been there the last 2 years, and look how many of the guys that were on the Memphis roster at the beginning of the year and finished with them last year, and now all of a sudden they won the championship while still graduating all these players. So from a person who doesn't follow the minor leaguers as much, you got to feel kind of good about the system in general. Now, while we might not have a lot of, top 10s or top 20 prospects in all of baseball sitting on the Memphis roster, we certainly have, as a collective group, you have to say, man, that's pretty promising that you've put together, and not just AAA. I mean, the Springfield team had a great year. So there's some promise there, and it definitely speaks to the depth. So congratulations to those guys. And Gallegos, the pitcher that came over in the Luke Voigt deal from the Yankees, got a call up, and he'll be joining the team tomorrow. Don't know if he'll get a spot start or if he'll come out of the bullpen to give some guys some rest or not, but congrats to him too, because he probably didn't think that he'd be arriving in St. Louis in late July, middle of August. So yeah, go ahead. Tell us what you think.
I'm so happy for our baby birds. I'm so excited. I try to pay attention to the minor leagues. I'm trying to teach myself more about it. I'm not going to pretend like I'm some kind of expert, but to be able to see them do so well after, especially like what you said, we promoted so many of the guys that were on the team. They almost have a completely different team, like at the end of the season than they did at the beginning. And the fact that they still went all the way, that's just amazing. What does that say about our depth in our system? It's just, there's good coaching, there's good players. It's all so good. I mean, we get excited whenever we called up Bader and O'Neill and all these guys that like we just called up to think that
the arms, right?
Yeah, I mean, of course. I mean, I still laugh with Jordan Hicks. Wasn't Hicks the one that at the beginning of the season they were going to call him up and then they sent him back down to AAA because he was showing up late?
In spring training, right?
In spring training. Yeah. Yep. And so the fact that that's where we were when we began the season, and now these guys have performed so well, and that it's just more of that to look forward to. I'm not just excited for the future for the St. Louis Cardinals, but also that we have just such a great system in place underneath them. It's just so good all around, and it makes me so happy.
Yeah, a lot of good instructors and coaches too, which makes me wonder though. Stubby Clapp's had a lot of success in the Cardinals minor league, and he's just taken a championship in AAA, and he was right there last year. So Schultz just been put in place, so it makes me kind of wonder. Stubby Clapp where's his next destination? What's his next stop? Is he going to get a bench role? I mean, that's already filled right now. I mean, I don't really see a place on the St. Louis staff. Not that we wouldn't want him there, but I just don't see that happening. And I see. With everything he's been able to do in the minor leagues, I wouldn't be surprised if he shows up at interviews for any of the openings that we're going to find this offseason. Question for you guys, though, is like, Pete, this is probably one that you're going to want to answer.
Sure.
How in the hell is Buck Showalter still managing the Orioles? Not saying he's a bad manager, but why the hell would he even want to at this point?
I honestly don't know why he hasn't quit. I mean, I'm sure it's all those zeros after the comma.
Sure.
That have kept him around, but I don't know. I mean, he's got to be losing his mind right now. That team is what I think it's 60 or 61 games back.
It is. It's so funny to look at the standings. I think they've even like taken screenshots of my phone because we don't stare at the American League as much. But I looked at this and I'm like, you have got to be. They're 59 games out of first place.
Did they win yesterday?
They have a 1-game winning streak. Their run differential. If this does, what the hell am I looking at? Their run differential is negative 256 runs. Drink that one in, guys. Soak that one in. I mean, how in the hell are you 256 runs at a disadvantage versus every single opponent that you've ever faced. Is that even a real number?
Well, have you looked at the Marlins? They're negative 221. And they've won.
They've got 15 more wins.
Yeah, they've got 15 more wins. I didn't know that it was.
Baseball is ridiculous.
I didn't know it was 2 runs per win, but apparently it is. Yeah, that's
a
insane.
good way to look at
They
it.
are terrible, man.
Yeah.
With the Orioles. I mean, with how much we complain with our teams for different things, I mean, we've won more than 40.
You could be rooting
games.
for that. Right.
Yeah.
You could be rooting for that, which I don't think many people are these days. And hell, while we're at it, why don't we just look at my favorite?
The AL Central?
Nope. They aren't the worst, but they exist out there in no man's land in Southern California, and they're just a shit bag of an organization. That'd be the San Diego Padres, 61-92. They're 24 games out. Not as laughable as others. Negative 139 run differential. That's pretty much where I want them.
While you're looking at the standings, take a look at the record for the second place team in the AL Central.
Oh no, I don't want to, but I will.
Yeah.
So the Minnesota Twins, 71-81, yes, and they exist in second place.
So
Still
if
amazing.
they go on a 10-game winning streak to finish the season, they will finish at 500, and they're in second place in that division.
Well, let's see the progress they're making towards that goal you just set for them tonight, Pete.
And the Indians are only have 85 wins in a division like that. They only have 85 wins.
Yeah,
that screams to me a team that is not going to be prepared for the postseason.
And you know what, Pete? I was thinking about this, and this goes kind of along with the whole John Smoltz article I sent you guys. Well, it wasn't written by him, but it's his comments. I don't want to get into that yet because I think that's a fascinating topic. Because I just think there's some interesting points that were made there. The split schedule is something I'm not really familiar with how that worked when they tried it. We know that other sports and other places, college, that they kind of do something similar, but I'm not really sure how I feel about that part of it. But I want to talk for a second just about the balanced schedule. What would Cleveland's record be if they weren't getting majority of their games playing against the AL Central? I mean, would they even be there? Right?
It's hard to tell.
It's hard to tell. You'd have to look team by team and see what their records are versus other divisions, and I think it would paint a slightly different picture, to be honest with you. But anyway, you can talk about that all night long. But I'm just looking at the standings. It's just why not laugh about it? I mean, it's ridiculous. Baltimore Orioles, come on. How ridiculous is this? I mean, Adam Jones, my God, will you please release some of these guys just out of pure principle? Just let them go and let them play for somebody else.
So this tells you exactly what you were looking for. Cleveland Indians, 14-17 against the AL East, 14-18 against the AL West, 12-8 against the NL, 45-23 in their division.
Wow.
They beat up on crappy teams. Yeah.
Yeah, that's why that team is 19 games over 500, because they're 22 games over 500 in their division. I think they're that screams first round elimination.
Yeah. Oh, I'm not putting my money on them. They're gonna play. It looks like they're gonna play. Drawing a blank here. They're probably gonna play Houston, right? First round.
Yeah, they'll be the number 3 seed.
Yeah, so they'll play Houston. Houston's gonna kill them, and then the rest of the playoffs of the American League will be kind of interesting.
You're assuming that Houston's gonna hold off the A's. The A's are only 3.5 back. They're within. I mean, they could theoretically catch them.
Am I wrong in saying that it either seems like the teams that are there are either right on the cusp where it's like, oh, well, this could go either way, we're going to have to watch and find out, or it's just they're probably not going to stand a chance? It's either a maybe or a no way. There's not really a lot of excitement that's going on here except for maybe 2-3 teams.
You mean in the AL or the NL, or just in general?
Just in general. Just in general.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right, Brecklyn. I think the AL is pretty much wrapped up. It's just a question of where are the Yankees and Oakland going to sort out. We know who the playoff teams are going to be. Seattle's not going to make it back in. Tampa Bay is too far back; they're not going to make it in. So it's really just a question of who do the Yankees play in the wild card game? Are they going to play Houston or Oakland? And who hosts that game? And then over in the NL, it's a 4-team race for three positions, the NL West and then the wild card. So yeah, you're right. There isn't a whole lot of drama. As much as the wild card was supposed to add it, it's not there. It is obviously for the fans of those teams who are still in it, but mathematically, sure. Philadelphia hasn't been eliminated yet. But we know they're done.
They're not holding their breath.
They're not going to, they're out of it.
I do want to get to this to the race and what could shape up over the last 9 games and then into the first round. But before we go there, Pete, I wanted to give you a chance here. Brandon Morrow being done for the year. What does that mean for the Cubs? Who's going to be closing? Do you see it having what kind of impact is this going to make to your team?
I think that Brandon Morrow being out is actually realistically has less of an impact than Pedro Strop, because with every week that passed and Morrow wasn't even throwing off a mound, but kept doing long toss, it became less and less likely that he was going to be able to make it back. The Pedro Strop injury is far more consequential to that question of who's going to close for the Cubs. Strop apparently feels good. And he's hoping that he might be able to get into a game before the regular season ends. The Cubs are taking it very conservatively, and they're saying he's done for the regular season. It sounds like he may be back in the postseason. It's just a question of, is he ready for the DS or does he come back for the NLCS? But until that point, quite honestly, at least for the regular season, I don't think it matters. I mean, I was looking at something today. The Brewers have to go 7-1 at least.
Yeah, right.
To realistically win the NL Central. So it's pretty much wrapped up. I mean, unless the Cubs completely fall apart, if the Cubs go above 500, the Brewers pretty much have to win out because the Cubs hold the advantage. So a tiebreaker game is going to end up at Wrigley anyway. And so it's I think it's highly unlikely that the Cubs are going to lose the division, especially considering they have games against the White Sox coming up this weekend. And then they still have, I think it's the Reds that they still have some games against. So, the Cubs are, I think, fairly safe in winning the division. So who's going to close games, I think, is less of a concern now than who's going to close games in the postseason. And ultimately that's going to come down to roster construction as far as who they prioritize, both out of the bullpen, but then also on the bench. I mean, clearly Mike Montgomery has done tremendous work. Monty has done tremendous work this year as a spot starter. He's going back into the bullpen on October 1st. No question about that. Cole Hamels has clearly established himself as one of the 4. And so that shores up a bullpen role, and that gives Joe somebody who he can rely on. And so then the question becomes, how many guys do they want to put in the bullpen? And, do they make room for somebody like Terrence Gore?
Yeah. So, I mean, it doesn't sound devastating. And being that he's been out this late, probably not shocking either.
No, I think that everybody in the Cubs had it in mind that they weren't getting Brandon Morrow back anyway.
Yeah. Yeah.
At least not in the closer role. He wasn't going to have enough time to be able to rehab. Maybe he could step into that 8th inning role that he had last year, but I don't think that they had any illusions that he was going to be closing games in the postseason.
Yeah, I agree. We have a few cases of that on our team too. I think we had a couple players, not that I think that we want them back necessarily. We had a few that went down we knew weren't coming back. So not a key role like that, thankfully, but we've had a change in the closer role. And I don't think we talked about that very much on the last show, maybe not at all, but Carlos Martinez. Did we? Okay. I couldn't remember how much we got into, because I think it was new still, but I think that's pretty much how it's going to play out the rest of the year. I think Carlos Martinez has that 9th inning, but I tell you what, this Atlanta series, I mean, Carlos is just times Carlos, right? I got to say, like, somebody like Javier Baez has evolved faster as far as just maturity level. Carlos still scares the hell out of me on the mound when he's just getting close to the strike zone, but he's not getting the calls. Something happens on defense, he gives up a hit to a leadoff guy or something. I mean, he just makes me nervous. And
but we've got a guy like that. His name's Carl Edwards.
Yeah. Well, it's weird because rarely your opening day starter ends up your closer in a circumstance like this. So it's been an odd story. I expect he's going to be back in the rotation next year. I think that's where his shot's going to remain, and we'll see. how that transpires. But let's check back in here. He's not animated, but his head's moving around a lot.
Compromise who you are.
That's just Kyle.
He was animated a second ago, but
there's going to be times when
I was late to the. I was talking and I was late to the switch.
Realize that take some time to do some internal searching to see if it's something that you can work through, if it's stress in the moment, or if it's something that's going to stick with you. And if it's going to stick with you, get the hell away from it. We have you on live.
Quick,
Kyle,
what's he talking about?
say something ridiculous. I was just giving words of wisdom. I didn't say anything ridiculous yet. Speaking of vulgar, that doesn't look like Larry Flint's. Yes.
Oh, Jesus Christ. That was terrible. You know what? It was under my it was under my handle.
Maybe
Oh, so it wasn't through Team of Rivals. It was just you.
No.
Like Carlos
Aw.
Martinez,
I blew it.
Mar-
Oh well.
You did your best.
You think I can get him to take off his shirt?
No.
Yeah.
You don't think so?
He
No, you
wasn't
have to-
even 5 minutes into the show, and he was already offering to take his shirt off. So,
right. You know what? I think you'd have to offer him something in exchange, Pete. I don't think it can happen that quick. So maybe if you pre-plan, you might bait him into it.
let's not though. I'm gonna
Yeah,
let's
keep it a mystery.
Yeah. If Elliott were here.
Elliott, maybe we should force Elliott to do it. That should be his punishment for pulling
Take off his shirt?
No.
No.
Hey,
Brecklyn, he's a state champion.
I'm
he's
sure
a state
he is.
champion wrestler.
Yes, I know.
Which
but-
still,
Here, it's coming on. Oh, he flashed us.
who did?
Kyle.
Oh,
Oh, he did?
He did. He responded.
Aw. Wait,
Okay.
so oh well.
all right. Well, I had the screen down, but hey, Pete, I want us to check in on our buddy here because while the Brewers have gained a little bit of ground, and while they put a little bit of distance right between them and the Cardinals, can you how's our buddy Cato feeling right now? What's he doing? Is everything okay? I'm worried about him.
Oh my God. The other night when they lost, he was in rare. I retweeted it. I don't think that I favorited it, Ron. And I was really hoping that I sent it to you, didn't I? I was hoping that you would have recorded something for us. Oh, wait. This music sounds familiar.
It does.
Brewers suck, and you always suck. Last place Reds beat us at home. Embarrassment. Oh, the counselors are so wrong. Just watch the downfall again. Pirates and Cardinals will destroy us. Perez, Pena, Dames, etc. Just not good. Goodbye, Twitter. Cubs winning again. Brewers suck.
I have to say, my favorite part of that was the end of the tweet where he managed to put Brewers suck and you suck into the same thing. So it was brew suck. That Cato is next
clever
level.
guy. Yeah.
Is he really he's elevated it to an art form, man. We got to get him on this show.
Oh, wouldn't that be something? Wouldn't that be something? That would be fantastic. We got to get back on the task at hand here.
Oh, I wonder if we could get him on on a live watch with us.
Oh God.
For the
Well, you notice
wild,
how you notice how my camera was off this time, just so you know.
Yeah, the wild card game, man. Wouldn't that be amazing? A Brewers Cardinals
Oh.
wild card game, and we got Cato to be a guest.
Ooh.
Oh dear.
Oh, that
don't know
would be
if we can-
amazing.
Or yeah, it would be. It would be. I like that, Pete. We're gonna have to reach out, send some messages. Like, you know, we're the biggest baseball podcast in Charlotte.
There we go.
And we can start there. I mean, you got to start somewhere, right?
We are the largest Cubs rivalry podcast in America.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Right. We have to. We have to
Until proven wrong.
Yep.
But I would
prove us
just-
wrong.
I would really love to hear just how he goes about this random capitalization that he puts in these tweets. I would just love to be able to hear it
I want to
live.
see his face and hear the fingers hitting the screen.
Yeah,
That's what I
I
want to
would
see.
love to see that.
Yeah,
So
maybe
good.
there's a way we could hack his camera and just look at his face while he's typing.
I'm a
would
little
be-
scared of what else I would see, to be honest.
Brecklyn, we have a 3-team wild card race going on. All right. We have the Brewers, we have the Cardinals, we have the Rockies.
Hey, now, realistically, you have a 4-team race.
Who's your 4th team? Because I threw
Dodgers.
I threw the Dodgers out.
Haven't locked up that division yet.
They have not. They have not. You're absolutely right.
So I think, I mean, you have to. They have to. I think you have to take them into consideration.
Well, so the Dodgers have a 2.5 game lead on Colorado, but the Cubs have a 2.5 lead on the Brewers. So if you're going to throw one out, you got to throw both out, right? The reason I say is, Pete, if you look at the remainder of the Dodgers schedule and you look at their momentum, they look, their last 7 games, they've won 6 out of 7. 3 of them were against the Cardinals.
Yasiel Puig decided to actually be a baseball player.
Well, you know what? If he does, I don't see how the Colorado Rockies, with who they have remaining on their schedule, are going to be able to take down the Dodgers.
And with their injury to Trevor Story, that's a fair point.
So I really think that realistically, I just think we're looking at a 3-team race right now. And so the Cardinals are hanging on, and the Dodgers definitely helped them out by you know what? I didn't care who swept who necessarily in that series, but if it came down to a wild card second wild card tie between 2 teams, hell, I'd much rather go up against Colorado than I would LA.
Yeah. I think that's fair. I think we put up a better fighting chance, to be honest.
Yeah, to be honest, I'd like to see that 4-way tie that Jason Stark posited earlier in the week. I would love to see that.
And you'd like to see them all go in extra innings, and you'd like to see body parts laying on the field. And
did you read that article?
No, but I didn't have to. After reading your response to the article, I pretty much got the gist of it. It was like Cliff's Notes. If I want Cliff's Notes on baseball stories, I just talk to you.
There you go. I tell you what, the best part about it was, as Stark laid it out, if it happened, the Dodgers and the Rockies would have to travel 4,089 miles in 5 days in order to play all their games.
That's awesome.
The Rockies would play, I think I'm getting this right, they would play 5 different games in 5 different cities, and they would have to play in 4 time zones if it was to finish in a 4-way tie.
Oh dear.
There's and the 5 days and 5 cities assumes that they win the wild card game, and then they have to fly to Chicago.
Right.
But yeah, that was a fun article to read. We obviously know it's not going to happen.
That's half the fun when you get into a pennant race. When you actually have pennant races, that's part of the fun, is being able to put those scenarios together and play them out. And you have a fantasy list, and you have a nightmare list. And so I want to go through that with you guys. Look, let's just start with the Cardinals here. Okay. Right now, they're a game and a half up on the Rockies. Looking at both schedules, I think the Rockies, you could argue, have just a slightly tougher schedule. They're playing Arizona this weekend while the Cardinals are playing the Giants. Trust me,
Arizona's free falling, man.
Well, yes, but true. But they still have, look, like everybody else, they've got September call-ups. They kind of know they're out of it at this point. They can manage and take risks. They've got young players that are trying to prove themselves, and I realize all clubs do, but the clubs that are in right now, like hanging on, aren't gambling on giving certain rookies or high-level prospects. They're not gambling on giving them starts right now. Right. Whereas teams that are out of it can take that risk. And then imagine it, Pete, right? And Brecklyn, if you got Arizona out there throwing a no-name pitcher against a team that's like, you couldn't drive a needle up their ass with a tack hammer right now. They're so nervous about, they're so stressed and wound tight that that was.
Put it up a piece of coal and you get a diamond coming out. Is that what you're telling me?
Right, yeah. It's probably a more PC way to put it. But I just think that the stress level is different in those two situations, and that's why I don't look past San Francisco right now. And I don't take it for granted. The Cardinals need to sweep that series. They need to put some distance between them and whoever's chasing them or right on their heels before they invite Milwaukee into town and before they have to head up to Chicago, right? Because the last 6 games for the Cardinals are going to be brutal. They're going to be hard, but they're going to be a hell of a lot of fun, and we're going to be on edge.
Well, I think based on his history the last couple of years, it depends on when the Cubs clinch. If the Cubs clinch the day before the Cardinals, before they play the Cardinals, you guys are getting the AAA lineup in game 1.
See, I disagree. You know why?
No,
I disagree. That
always rests his regulars after they clinch.
Okay. Just play this out though.
All right.
If the Cardinals are a half game out of that second wild card spot, or they're only hanging on by a half game, and the Cubs have a chance to just eliminate them from the playoffs. Not just so their fans will be happy. Of course, they'd make their fans happy at that, but the Cubs also wouldn't even have to deal with them in the playoffs. And I know regular season does not always translate to postseason. Sometimes those are two different things. You got a team that kind of, backpedaled and stumbled their way into through September, but happened to make it. All of a sudden, that real team shows up in October. I've seen it happen tons of times, and I've seen it happen in a bad way to my team. So you never know in the postseason, so I don't discount that. But for the Cubs, regular season, the Cardinals have the advantage. If you're just looking at regular season games, if you had the opportunity to just get them out, just flick them out, I mean, wouldn't you at least for a game, push them out of the way if you had the chance?
If I had the chance, yeah. But Joe has demonstrated that once he clinches, he backs off.
Well, then he should go to the Lovie Smith School of Strategy, because the Bears had a chance to knock the Packers out the year that they knocked them out of the NFC Championship game. Yep. They had a chance to keep them out of the playoffs in that last game of the year, and they didn't do it because you know why they didn't do it? Lovie Smith. That's all the explanation you need. So I think it's foolish. I think if you have a chance to knock your rival out, you do it. And screw your philosophy that you've had for all your whole life. Now that you're walking around barefoot in the dugout, you're just freaking weird. You're drinking wine at press conferences, with the Wrigley Field banner behind you and all that shit. Joe, you don't win this year, next year, his welcome's going to be worn out.
I mean, honestly, that's why I hope the Cubs go 6-0 in their next 6 games against the Cubs or against the White Sox and the Pirates.
That choice isn't even on the table, right? Yep.
So that Joe throws out his AAA team in the last game against the Pirates and not in the first game against the Cardinals. But it's lining up nicely to where it could very well be that they clinch against the Pirates at home next Thursday.
Well, I mean, as a Cardinal fan, I'd rather see it happen than too.
You guys are getting the AAA team on Friday. I'm telling you.
Okay. I said it on the last show. I'm no different here, Brecklyn. I want to know how you feel about this too. At this point, I am not worried about the Cubs. Not in that sense, guys. I'm talking about as far as down the stretch here. I'm not worried about the Cubs until the 3 games we play them in Chicago. I'm not paying attention to what they do because that's not attainable. Mathematically, it is, but I know some of the Cardinals Nation Facebook group, and I love them all. But there was a great question because it generated a lot of dialogue. So you got a sense of how the Cardinal fan base is feeling right now, and you've got a small percentage of them that actually think it's a real possibility. Well, bless their hearts. It's realistically, it's not. I'd love to sit here and say I think they've got a realistic shot and be able to lay it out for you, but it's so ridiculous that it's just not happening. I think they need to priority 1, hold on to the second wild card spot. The realistic chance is to be able to catch and pass the Brewers.
The problem,
that'd be
the
nice.
problem with the thought of the Cardinals winning the division is that not only do they basically have to win out, and the Cubs have to completely fall apart, right? The Cubs have to go 3-7, and the Cardinals have to win out, and the Brewers have to fall apart.
Right.
Yeah.
And
that's a lot that you got to have go perfectly right.
Yep.
That's
that's
too much.
Yeah, you're running out of games to do it. That's the problem. You don't have games to do it, and so it's just that's what it is. When you only have 9-10 left. So,
I mean, like you said, bless their heart. I mean, it's a nice thought, but I mean, there's no reason that you need to get greedy with it. I mean, the Cubs, the guys play the White Sox on the road, and besides that, you're home. You don't have to worry about traveling anymore.
Right.
You can just kind of relax there at Wrigley, figure it out. The Cardinals, we have that kind of thing going on to where we're home and then we don't leave until our series with the Cubs. So I'm very glad that we're playing the Brewers at home, but we need to just focus on these few games that are right here and not go for the overstretching goal of trying to take down the Cubs. That's just, don't even think about it right now. Right now, each game is so important that putting extra stress on it isn't going to help anyone.
No, it's absolutely not. And I think that a scenario that this also could be argued that this is a stretch and it's unlikely to happen. And I may yield to this, but the one thing I think that's realistic for Cardinal fans to look at right now, and that is, Milwaukee goes to Pittsburgh tomorrow, and they have a weekend series with them. If I just go ahead and predict right now, the Brewers are likely to take at least 2 out of 3 there, and the Cardinals are welcome the Giants at home. The Giants really don't have much to play for right now. It doesn't mean they won't. And I'm not underestimating what a major league team can do. I'm not looking past them. It's no disrespect, but the Cardinals need to sweep. If that were to happen, the Cardinals welcome the Brewers into town, only trailing them by 2 games. And so I think that's I would love to see that play out because then the Cardinals then the Cardinals have control, and they're going to lose control of the series after that. Then they can't control what the Brewers are doing anymore. They can't beat up on them. So it's asking a lot, because it's asking, if you want to jump the Brewers, you got to win the next 6 games and hope that they only take 2 or 3 from Pittsburgh. But I think that's, if you want to hope for anything, hope for that.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with that. I mean, Milwaukee definitely isn't something that you need to take lightly. And with the Giants, I mean, like you said, they're not really playing for anything right now. But if we looked at the recent series it was the Cubs and the Reds recently, that, I mean, those games.
We've got her on auto tune.
We do.
Do I sound like a robot?
Yeah, it was cool. No, yeah. Yeah, you got a little bit delayed there for a second, but you were talking about the recent series. Reds is what I caught.
Yeah, and what I was saying is that those losses, it didn't hurt the Cubs as much as it, didn't really put them at jeopardy for too much. But still, I mean, losing to the Reds doesn't, make anybody feel good. So it's the same type of thing here with the Giants. I hope that we're able to play really well. But every time we think that we're going to do really well against a certain team, we kind of fall into those expectations. Yeah. It's when people start thinking we're going to do really poorly that we're suddenly picking up steam. So maybe everyone should just believe that we're going to lose so they can prove us wrong. And
there are some on the Facebook pages that absolutely do. But you know what? These next 3 games against the Giants are going to be just as stressful as they're going to be the last 3 in Chicago, because they have to take care of business here. So we're going to be on edge. We're going to be watching every pitch. But you know what? I'd rather have
Bumgarner, right?
We faced Bumgarner in the first game. Now we know it's not the Bumgarner of 2014. Nope. It's still Madison Bumgarner. He still knows how to get his job done. And that's why I'm saying right now, could be reason number 1 why you say I don't look past these guys. And I know Posey's out, I know McCutcheon's gone, but it doesn't matter. It's a major league team. They got a hell of a pitcher taking game 1, so get their work cut out for them. John Gant goes for the Cardinals. Wainwright gets his start on Saturday, and then Michaelis goes on Sunday.
There you go.
If the Cardinals are in position to sweep this, I'd almost rather see Michaelis go on Monday versus the Brewers, but we'll see.
I don't know. So we're bringing back to the Adam Wainwright thing. If he can do the type of performance that he played Sunday, which, like I said, I didn't see it, but just from hearing about it, that would be beautiful. I mean, I don't know. There's also, everyone kept throwing out Nostalgia Night as though it was a really negative thing. I don't like that a lot. Yeah.
Yeah.
But there's something about watching Adam Wainwright. It's just good baseball. And whenever he's struggling, I mean, it hurts to watch just because all that he is. And so to be able to see him play really, really well, it does something as a Cardinals fan where you're just like, I don't know. It's a kind of feel-good confidence that boosts the team up so much that if we were able to do really well in that game, I think it would be the type of morale boost that might be able to help us kind of extend through the next few games too.
Well, it harkens back to the time when the Cubs were in last place and, the Cardinals were on top of the division from 2000 whatever on. So, yeah, I like that bit of nostalgia too. I'll take that any day. Because the last time Adam Wainwright looked that good, the Cubs weren't sitting in first place.
Yeah.
All right. Moving on a little bit, Pete, unless you want to add more to this division wild card race, anything that you want to see at the end. I mean, I imagine what you were going to say tonight is that the Cardinals were hanging on by a thread and the Cubs could choke them out in that last series.
I'd love to see it. Don't get me wrong.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Because the overreaction from Cardinals Twitter and Cardinals Facebook would be delicious.
I would say that'd be a field day for you.
Oh,
now play out this
the salty tears that I would be drinking out of my Team of Rivals podcast mug.
Well, let me play this one.
The interlocking heart mug.
Pete, let me do this one to you here. Okay, so the Brewers are a half game behind the Cubs going into the Cubs-Cardinals series. What if the Cardinals go ahead and help the Brewers out that series?
Oh,
How
dear.
pissed off is that going to? And then they got to turn right back around and basically play St. Louis 4 games in a row. And the 4th one's going to be in St. Louis, right? No, because it'd be the position of the wild card. But I guess if they're not going to tie the Cubs, so that never mind, that won't play out. But 4 games straight in Chicago because St. Louis decided to have something to say about who's going to win the National League Central ultimately. And right as you're crossing the finish line, somebody just clips your heel and you're like, fuck, and there goes Bernie Brewer and those stupid sausages running right by you. How's that going to make you feel?
It's nice to think about, isn't it?
It is.
It's always good to play in Fantasyland.
Yeah, I know. All right,
That's
guys.
when we would have to invite him onto the show, our friend. See what he'd have to say then.
Oh yeah. Something a good vibe. Now he's on West Coast time. Maybe we can get Adam to track him down for us.
There we go.
Yeah. So, all right, guys. Well, that's all I had for tonight. We're about in an hour, so that's a good time. Pete.
Yes, sir.
Do your thing.
Do my thing.
Do your thing.
Right now.
Mm-hmm.
All right. When we're not live on YouTube, you can find us at teamofrivalspodcast.com. We're also on Facebook at Team of Rivals Podcast, on Twitter at Team of Rivals Pod, because Team of Rivals Podcast is too long for Twitter, and on Instagram at Team of Rivals Podcast. You can contact us at the show at teamofrivalspodcast.com. On Twitter, you can find our missing compatriot at TOR_Elliott. You can find Ron at
TOR_Ron75.
And Brecklyn at
Carry on cards.
And of course, catch us anywhere you listen to podcasts: iTunes, Radio Public, SoundCloud, Stitcher, Spotify, TuneIn, and Google Podcasts. And Radio Public, of course. Yeah. So apparently they have a new app, although it hasn't been loaded, but Google now has a podcast app. So it doesn't show up in Google Play. Apparently they've split it off separately. So
okay. Do we have to
look into that?
We don't have to do a bunch of work and shit, do we? Because I'm not doing it.
I think so. I read it in somebody else's Twitter feed, so we'll see.
So it must be
anyway. Radio Public is, of course, our preferred platform because it does throw a couple of pennies our way every time you listen. And the best part is it doesn't cost you a dime to do so. So why don't you go ahead and check out Radio Public, either download the app or you can listen to it on their web player. And, do us a solid. And of course, don't forget to visit the team store on Sassel. Ron.
Wait, before we leave, just remember, if anything happens that any of you don't like for the rest of your week, it's Elliott's fault.
Yes. Yep. I'll be tweeting that out all week long. Another quick note here.
Point, Brecklyn. See,
it is. Thank
Ron,
you.
This was the right decision. She gets it. She gets it.
Yes, she does. One thing I wanted to mention. So on the one of our partners here, the Cardinals Nation 24/7. We always talk about their Facebook page. They got a group too. We've gotten a lot of love and support from Chris Lawless over time. We do the other show, Cardinals Nation 24/7 podcast. We've just kind of soft launched the website, but now we fully launched it, and it's pretty great. And as proud as I've been on the Team of Rivals, everything we've been able to build up on there, been able to take all that experience and build one for Cardinals Nation 24/7. So that website is cardinalsnation247.com. We're putting the podcast, all the shows and everything, links to everything up there. The exciting thing about that one is we have 4 writers signed up now to start putting out original Cardinals Nation 247 content, which I think that's pretty exciting. So we've got them on board. We're introducing a 3rd show this fall, and we're introducing a 4th show in January that's going to have more to do with the Cardinals and their minor league system. It's probably one large gaping hole in our expertise on everything Cardinals is not having somebody that can speak to the minor league system and prospects that Chris and I sure aren't able to do. So I'm excited about some of the things that they've got happening over there, and glad that we're kind of all connected and a part of that. So wanted to throw that out there. But Pete, wonderful job taking us out again as usual. Love it when you're here because I can't do it, and I suck at it on the other show as well.
It's on Slack.
Oh yeah, I'm going right. I'm read. You want me to read out loud? By the way, the Gollum thing was live tonight.
Really?
Yes.
Was it?
Recorded. Oh yeah. I didn't have time
to climb up on your table.
I did, and that's why I shut my camera off.
Oh,
no, I'm sorry. Sorry. You don't.
Ron,
maybe I don't have pants on.
We got Kyle to flash us.
Ooh. Let's on Halloween release the little clip of you doing it. What about that?
I'll have to think about it.
We do that.
We could be.
What if we say please a lot?
We could be celebrating a Cubs championship on Halloween. That would be.
Shut
fun.
your mouth. Shut up.
That'd be scarier.
All right, everyone. That was where I'm ending it. Talk to you soon. Love y'all. Bye bye.